Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. This is Ajalam here. Thank you so much for stopping by. Thank you so much for the love and support so far. I really appreciate you all. And if this is your first time of coming across my channel, kindly subscribe and turn on the bell icon so that you get to know anytime I put up a new video. So for today's tutorial, I'll quickly share with you how to make a 2-layer ball dress for a 3-year-old baby girl. So if you're interested, keep on watching. I'll be using for this work. Okay, this is a leftover fabric. I'm going to use this for the upper part. This is my satin, my lining, and the net itself. So I will start as usual with the upper part. So I will start by marking out a straight line to serve as my guide. So this is the line here. So now the bodice length is 9 inches plus 1 inch for my seam, that is 10. So from this line now, I'll mark out 10. Okay, when you're drafting out this, make sure you have enough paper. I'm using half because I don't have enough paper. So if you have enough paper, you just fold it so that you don't get confused. Okay, so now I'll mark out 10. I need to change this marker. So that is 10 there. I will now connect that to a straight line. Okay, so now the shoulder is 9 inches, half of that is 4.5. So I'll just mark out 4.5 here. Then I'll come down by ½ inch, which is the shoulder slope. Okay, then for the neck width, I'll be using 2.5 for the neck width, which is here. Okay, so I'll connect this point to that point there. You should be familiar with this by now if you're a returning subscriber. Okay, so I'll just connect that. So for the armhole, I'll be using 4.25, which is here. So I'll now put the shoulder measurements, which is 4.5. That is half of 9 inches. Okay, I will now connect. So now this is the chest line here. Okay, so now this is 4.25. To determine the midpoint, I'll just fold my tape to that point, which is here. Okay, and I'll squeeze it to get the midpoint. This is the fastest way of doing this so that you don't stress your head with too much calculation. So this is the midpoint there. I will now come in by 3/4, which is here. Okay, that's the point. So now the chest is 23. 23 divided by 4 is, so that will give me 5.75. I hope I'm right, which is here. So as usual, I'll add my 1 inch for my seam allowance, which is here. Okay, so for the waist is 22 inches. So 22 divided by 4 is, I think, 5.5, which is here. So I'll add 1 inch for my seam. So that is how easy and simple it is. So before you draft out this, make sure you measure the girl, because some children are, even though they are of the same age, some are fatter than the others. So the best thing to do is to take the girl's measurement. Don't do a guesswork so that you don't end up having problems. So now I'll connect these points. So I'll connect that point there. So for the neck width, sorry, the neck depth, I'll be using 2.25, which is here, because I don't want the neck to be too wide. So now I'll use my French curve and just connect it. Okay, with a simple curve. So that is how simple it is. So now I will just cut it out and show you how to cut the back side. pattern, I will mark out as well a line as a guide. So I will now mark out 1 inch. This is for the zipper allowance. Okay, and remember we're using 10, that is the bodice length. The bodice length is 9 plus 1 inch for my seam, making it 10. So this is 10 here. So I'll connect that line. After connecting it, I'll mark out the shoulder. Okay, but if you don't want to repeat that, you can just use the front pattern and place like this. Okay, on your pattern you can just place it like this and you cut. But for the neck, for the back neck, you can decide how low or high you want it. So for this, I'll be making it 1/2 inch because I want it high. So this is 1/2 inch here. Okay, so now this is the shoulder. Remember, everything now should stop at this line because this will be inside. By the time you add your zip, it will be inside. So half of the shoulder measurement is 4.5, which is 9 divided by 2. Okay, so I'll come down as usual by 1/2 inch. Okay, remember I used 2.5 for the neck width. Okay, so I'll just connect this. And for the armhole, remember I used 4.25 for that. So I will insert that 4.25 from this point. This is 4.25 here. Then I will insert the shoulder measurement. Then I'll connect that line to a straight line like this. Okay, so now this is the, I'm just repeating what I did on the front pattern, but the back has a little difference. Okay, so now half of this, remember like I said earlier, you fold your tape, all right, to save yourself the stress of calculating. So this is the midpoint there. Okay, I will come in by 3/4 inch, which is here. Remember I use 5 3/4 for the chest, which is 23 divided by 2, and I will now add 1 inch for my seam. Then for the waist I used 5.5, which is 22 divided by 4, which is here, plus 1 inch for my seam. Okay, I will just quickly connect the lines together like this before I will now do the little alteration for the back. Okay, so now this, I'll just connect this one. Remember, if you want to add sleeve to your dress, you cut the back side the normal way we used to cut. Okay, this is very optional. This is my own way of going about the back because it gives me the shape I really want for the back side. Okay, it's not compulsory. Okay, you can find your own way of going about this. When it comes to sewing, you can easily freestyle. Okay, so now I'll just connect this, then I'll cut it out quickly, and then on the waist area I'll have to come up by 1/2 inch. Okay, reason being that if I leave it like this, when you finish joining the front and the back, one must surely be longer than the other. So that is the essence of coming up by 1/2 inch. That is on the waist area. Okay, so now this is it. After cutting this out now, I will place it on my fabric and I will just cut. So like I was saying here, I will just mark out 1/2 inch. Okay, this is it. This is 1/2 inch here. So I will just use this like this. Okay, because the way I'm doing it, I will just connect it back to that point there using the armhole cuff. Okay, so this is just what I need. So now I will just cut it out and I'll place it my fabric and just cut the rest before I will now show you how to cut the down parts. For the down parts here, I have, this is my satin, and I've used part of it to cut out the upper part. So this is 1.5 yards. This is 1.5 yards of satin, as you can see. So remember, the down part is a 2-layer dress and there's a band at the hem area. So now I'm going to fold this. So I just folded it into 2, as you can see. This is it. I just folded into 2. Okay, so let me turn it this way so that you understand. So I just folded my fabric into 2. Now you determine the height or the length of your the band. So for this, because I don't have much enough fabric, I'll be making the band 4 inches. Okay, so now 4 inches plus 1 inch, which is my same, because I will sew and turn it over and sew again. That is the same way you sew when you're making a turn up dress. So now this is it. I'll mark out, since I'll be using 4 plus 1 inch, which is for the seam, that is 5. So that would be into 4. Okay, because it's a 2-layer. One is for the first layer and the other is for the second layer. So I'll mark out 20 inches this way, not this way. I hope that makes sense. Okay, so I'll just mark out 20 inches. So remember, this is the folded part, okay, and this other side is open. So now I'll mark out 20 inches. Okay, so this is 20 inches here. I don't like adding this edge. So this is 20 inches. This is what I'll be using for the band, for the 2-layer. So I'll mark that out down to the other end. Okay, straight like this, and then I'll cut it. So this is the 20 inches length, so I'll cut it. Remember, I'm using 4 inches for the band because I don't have enough fabric. You can make yours up to 6, okay, so that by the time you turn, you end up having 4. You can make it very bold as it is on the thumbnail. So this is what I'll be using for that. So I'm going to divide this. So I'll mark out 5 inches. Okay, I'm going to separate it now, 5 inches like that, until I have 4 pieces of this. I am doing it like this because my fabric is not enough. If you have up to, let's say, 2 yards or 2.5 yards of satin, you can just cut it straight. For this, I'm going to join it so that by the time I gather it, it will give me exactly what I want. So that is why I'm just cutting it. After cutting like this now, saying this is 4 pieces now. I'm going to join it, okay, because my fabric is not long enough. Okay, so I'm going to join this together. This joining now, I'll make sure it will be by the sides. So I'm going to join this. After joining it, I will now check what I have for the length. So after joining, this is what I have. So I will now check what I have. Whatever I have here is what I'll be cutting out for my satin. This is, wow, this is so long, but that is good. That if you want to make a very fluffy dress. Okay, so that is 60 plus 46, which is 106. So I will now cut out that on my net. So here I have 5 yards of net, and that will be too much. Remember, we are working with 106 inches now, so that will be like 3.5. So I'll just cut out 3.5 inches from these 5 yards. That is what I'll be using. So here I have 3.5 yards of net. I've removed the excess. So now remember, the full length of this dress is 26. So I'll minus that by the, I'll minus it from the bodice length, which is 9, and I'll have 17. So now remember, the band will be 2 inches. That is to say, on the net I should have 15 inches. So but I'll be adding 2 inches. I'll just make it at 17 inches to be on the safe side, because it's better to have more. Okay, later you can now trim it off than having shortages. Okay, so I'll just mark out that 17. I'll just mark out the 17 inches. Okay, after everything, I can now easily trim off the excesses. Okay, so now I'll just mark out here now. So I'll mark out 17 from this point. Here is 17. Okay, after marking it out, I'll now cut it out. So for the second layer, this is the first layer. For the second layer, you can decide how difference you want that one from the first layer. Okay, but for me, I would like to make it just 3 inches different. So that is to say 17 minus 3. So I'll be cutting out 14 inches for the second layer. Okay, remember that the 2 inches band will still come in. Okay, so I'll mark out 14 inches here for the second layer. So this is 14 inches. So after marking it out, I'll just give all of them a good press before I will now start joining it together, because if you join it like this, you will have a problem. Okay, so this is what I'll be using for the second layer. And now I don't want my fabric to waste. This I can just cut it out, the 17, and just gather it and put it inside before all these other two. But this is really optional. You can skip this part, but for me, I don't like wasting my fabric, so I'll just gather this. I'll mark out the length and gather that and put. So for the satin, okay, this is what I have left. I hope this will really be enough for me. So I'm going to fold it in a triangle way, same way you fold your fabric when making a half circle dress. If you're a returning subscriber, you should be familiar with this by now. So I'll just fold it like that. Then I will divide the waist, which is 22 by 3.14. Whatever it gives me is what I'll be marking out from this point to anywhere. Then I'll add 1/4 inch to that because of my zipper allowance. So let me do the calculation. So 23 divided by 3.14 will give me 7 and some points. So I'll mark out that 7 inches. Okay, from this edge here, I'll mark out 7 inches, which is here. So I'm going to mark that all the way to the other end. And the method I normally use after marking it out, that is to be sure, I will place my tape on it, okay, and make sure that it gives me the waist measurement. That is, I'll just place my tape like this, and I'll just, okay, as you can see, I have 24 already, which is very okay. 1 inch now will be for my zipper allowance. So now I'll mark out for the length I'll be using. Remember, this dress I'll be making it 17 inches. Okay, so now I'll use the same 17 inches on the satin. By the time I'm done trimming it, it will be smaller. And remember, satin is supposed to be hidden inside. So this is 17. I'll just mark that out and I'll cut it out. And please, if you're watching up to this time, kindly like this video. Okay, it helps me a lot. And in the comment section, you can always tell me what next you would like me, what style or anyone you have in your mind you want me to do, and I'll gladly do that. So this is it. I'll now just cut it out. Then I'll cut out my lining. This is my lining. Here I have 1 yard. So I'm going to fold it same way I just folded the satin right now. So guys, this is the one I'm using now. The first one, that is the 1 yard, wasn't enough. So this is 1.5 yards now. That is for the lining. I use 1.5 so that the length will be enough. So now I'll mark out the same 7 inches which I used for the satin. So I'm going to mark that to the other end. Okay, for this I'll be using a very small hard net. I don't want it to be too heavy for the child. So this is 7 inches. So for the length I'll be making this 15 inches. So I'll just mark that out. This is 15 inches here. So I'm going to mark it to the other side. Then I'll cut. After cutting, I'll give all these a good press before I'll start sewing. And then for the hard net, I'll be making that at the center of this lining. Unlike the other ones, I start say 2 inches from the waist, but this I'll be making it at the center, okay, because I don't want it to be too much. So that is it. Lining, like I was saying, I'll just open it up now. Okay, unlike other ones, I normally start from 2 inches or 2.5 inches from this waist, but because I want it very light, I will make it, instead of 2.5, I'll be making it 5.5 inches from the waist. So I'll mark out this 5.5 inches from the waist. This is where I'll be fixing in my hard net, because I will just make it only one line is enough for me. Okay, because I'm going to gather the dress, I don't want it too stuffy. So this is 5.5. I'm going to mark this all to the other end, then I'll cut out the hard net. As you can see, I just cut it out. Here I use 6 inches, and these 3 pieces is more than enough because I don't want it to be too weighty. So I'm going to gather this. You can also pleat directly on the lining. Okay, so now let me just start from the down part layer, which is 17 inches. Okay, so this is 17 inches. I will now take this and I will sew it. I will take this now and I will join it on this one like this. So I'm going to sew it straight. After that, I will now turn it over and fold. So this is what I have after joining, as you can see. So now I'm going to fold it over like this. Okay, I'll just fold the first one and I'll now take it like this. Okay, this should be inside while this should be on top. Then I'm going to sew it all the way down, and I'll repeat the same on the second layer. So after sewing it, this is what it looks like. As you can see, I just folded it now so that I will now mark out the accurate length. Remember, for this first layer, I said earlier that I'll be using 17 inches. So I will now mark out that 17 inches, but I'll add ½ inch for my upper seam allowance, so which is here. So now I'm going to trim that off. So this is 17.5. So I'll trim that off, and then I will gather this part before joining it to the upper part. So now for the second layer, this is the second layer here. I said I'll be using 14 inches because I want it to be 3 inches different from the first layer. So now I'm going to mark out 14.5. Half is for my seam allowance, so this is 14.5 here. Okay, and then I'll cut, and then I'll gather it as well, and I'll keep it aside. Okay, so this is it. Now I will now take the upper part. Okay, so this is the upper part. I've given it a good press. So now I will start by joining the shoulders together. Okay, this is the front and this is the back. So I'll start by joining the shoulders together, and I'll do the same on the lining. So guys, this is it. I just closed after joining the shoulders, I just closed the neck and I top stitch, then I close the armhole. So now I'll just turn it and give it a good press, and I will join the down part with this upper part. So after giving it a good press, this is what I have. So now it's time to close up the dress. So I'll open it up like this, and I'm going to mark from the satin inside. Okay, now for this dress, the chest is 23. So half of that is 11.5. When you're marking this, you make sure whatever you have here is the same with this other side. So this is 23 inches here now. and the waist is 22, which is 11. So this is 11 here. So now I'll connect it to the waist side. Then I'll mark the same thing on the lining. This is the lining. I'll just turn it over like this now, and I'll mark the same. So here is 11.5. Okay, and the waist is 11, which is here. Then I'll connect that. So after connecting it now, I'm going to sew it together. Okay, this is how I'll do now. I'll just bring this over like this. Okay, remember this is the first one that I mark, so I'm going to hold it together with this first one, making sure the lining is separate. So this is it. So now if you like, you can start from this side and sew, but for me I like to start from this point so that I'll end up having the same, so that the line here, the armhole line here, will match with this other one, because if you follow this side it might not match. So now I'll take this and I'll start from here and I'll stitch it to this other side, and I'll repeat the same on the other side. After that, I'll now join the down part. It looks like, as you can see, I've joined it. Look at the way I did it, like I explained earlier. So this is the second side. So now I will take the down parts, but I'll separate the lining because I'll be joining the lining on that side. So this is where I'll be adding, this is the down part, as you can see. After gathering it, I just join it with the satin. So now I'm going to place it over like this. Okay, and I will now sew it. Starting from this point now, I will just sew it all the way down, and I will repeat the same on the lining. So guys, this is what it looks like after joining it with the upper part. As you can see, it's already looking beautiful. So now I will repeat the same thing for the lining. I'm going to join the lining, and then I will close up the dress, and then I will show you the final look. This is the final look of the dress. As you can see, it's looking so beautiful. So for the zipper, you can check out my video on how to fix an invisible zip to a ball gown, and you get to see how to do all that. So now this is the back. I'm going to add a little bow there, and that is it. So I hope you were able to grab one or two things from today's tutorial. So that is it for today. Please subscribe if you have not, and don't forget to turn on the bell icon so that you get notified whenever I post a new video. So guys, see you soon.